Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Angela Puca, and this is the Livestream Symposium. And thank you, every single one of us, for the 50,000 subscribers here on YouTube. I'm really, really pleased that the channel is growing and that you guys are interested in the academic study of esotericism, paganism, and all things occult. And I have to thank especially my patrons who allow me to keep doing this work, and also all the PayPal donors and the channel members and everybody who is contributing also in the super chat. So thank you all so much. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys and with special guests, actually. So we also have here Philip from Let's Talk Religion and Zevi from Seekers of Unity. You probably guys know them, but if not, you should totally check their channel out. And so how are you guys, Philip and Zevi?
I'm doing good. I'm very happy to know that you've reached 50,000 subscribers. And congratulations so much, Angela. You deserve all of those subscribers and many, many more, because the work you're doing is just amazing. And we're happy to have you as part of this community.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Philip. It's very nice of you.
Yes, great to be here with you. Thank you, Angela. And thank you, Angela, for really, to echo what Philip said, for the amazing work you're doing. I think a lot of people see the exciting parts of it. They see the lights, they see the action, but they don't see the hours and hours and hours of work that go on behind the scenes to make it happen. And as fellow content creators, we have, I think, an extra degree of appreciation for the work you're doing, bringing immense scholarship to the public, which is a great contribution, which I think will stand for many years as an incredible resource. So on behalf of everyone who learns from you, including ourselves, thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Zevi. And I believe you also reached you're about to reach a milestone. Oh, we have another friend here who has just appeared. Hello, Justin.
Hey, Angela. Hey, guys. Congratulations, Angela.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. Of course.
You seem to have rushed. Is everything okay?
Yeah, just putting the kids down for their nap. So it's like juggling several things. But wow, thank you for having me on. And again, congratulations. Congratulations also to you, Zevi.
Oh yes, congratulations, Zevi. You also reached a milestone.
We just reached 25, so halfway to you, Angela.
Well, I like to celebrate these kind of milestones, but I don't think that the number is necessarily related to. I think that the growth. I see the growth as more important, to be fair, but not the. I don't see the numbers in absolute terms, but more in relative terms, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's very hard to measure the impact on any single person that we reach, and I think it's a great privilege that we're able to celebrate together here, as friends and colleagues. And I think one of the main things that I've gained from this community, besides for all of the people that come to learn, is having people to teach alongside with and learn from, and for that I'm immensely grateful beyond any numbers. These three are greater than 3,000 or 3 million.
Oh, I totally agree. I also think that the community is, much more valuable and because I think that creating the community is something that enriches us as creators and as educators, as university researchers, whatever it is that we are doing. But it also, I think it brings value to our communities as well. The fact that we stick together and we work together, I think that it's much more valuable than just working in isolation. I know there are other creators that tend to be or prefer to just do their own thing, and I totally respect that as well, but I definitely prefer to to be working with you guys as opposed to solo.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's wonderful both for us, but also I think for the audience, right? Because we can work together and complement each other.
And we have different expertise, so that also really helps a lot. And thank you. Let me thank the people in the super chat. Thank you very much, Jeanette, for your coffee. And thank you, Hank, who's also a very generous patron. So happy days. I was asked this morning if I would be pukaing today. Who asked you that? That's funny. So yeah, we are pukaing now. Apparently, it's a thing.
It's become a verb.
Yeah.
What does the verb? What does it mean, Angela, to be pukaing?
Yeah, this is something that we need to find out. Or apparently, puka is kind of this shape-shifting entity figure. So maybe we are shape-shifting from the real to the virtual, and trying and disentangling the mysteries of the sacred, the arcane, and of mysticism. I'm trying to kind of unite the.
I think we're all pukaing in that case.
Now, you really arrive when your name becomes a verb.
Yeah. That's a marker of success. And Hank says the lady he's staying with, okay. Yeah, we will remember her for inventing the term. And Jeanette says, LOL beard game. I'm the only one without a beard. I feel excluded from this game.
Can't be too much beard. We have to keep a lid on how much beard is on screen at the same time, I think.
Yeah.
Literally the least effort required to engage with facial hair. It's just, I don't know why anyone would, like, people have weird respect for beards, and I'm like, it's the laziest thing possible.
Right.
Why is beard become a thing lately? What happened to the word so that beard became something?
Beard has an association with philosophy in ancient Greece. There's a Greek expression that it's not the beard that makes the philosopher, right? Which I think would apply to what we're saying here as well. There's something about the beard and wisdom. I mean,
because the longer it is, the older you are. That makes sense.
Right,
and first of all, you need to be old enough to have a beard.
Right. You can see some of the white strands in Justin's beard. There's also point to a degree of wisdom which I haven't yet attained.
He's the wisest of us all.
Different levels, different levels of
attainment. Definitely not. No, I've Zevi may appreciate this. I've been reading Malila's book, The Secrets of the Facebook, and there's a whole section of the Zohar that's just like a 50-page monologue on God's beard and how it like attaches to God's brain and skull. It's very weird. And it's like 13 parts of God's beard and all this stuff. It's bizarre. And I've been studying that for the past 2 weeks, and I have this stuff on in my mind, different kinds of dimensions of the divine as strung out through God's beard. It's so weird. Like, I got to get whatever drugs those guys are on.
Is that for a video, Justin?
Say, what does that mean?
Is that for an upcoming episode?
No, I mean, eventually, I guess everything is at some point for an upcoming episode. No, I took a couple of weeks off from content creation to actually just take some downtime and do some studying on my own and things like that. So
that's very wise.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's one of those. I don't know how you guys feel, but there's a superstition that I have that if I walk away from this for any length of time, then the whole everything will collapse.
It will collapse. Yes. Yeah, I think we all have the kind of fear, don't we?
Yeah, and it's totally irrational. I mean, I really call it superstition. Like, it's a totally irrational superstition. But yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks. I've started studying with an old professor of mine who's a dear friend as well. We're reading Proclus's Elements of Theology together, which is a beast. If you've ever tried to study it, it is a very, very difficult text.
And that's how Justin spends his pastime.
Yeah, that's my downtime.
Yeah, downtime. Sorry. Downtime.
Yeah, it's a complete, total masochist.
Are you reading it in Greek?
We have, I mean, the standard Dodds edition has the Greek and the English facing.
Cool.
But I have to admit that Proclus's Greek is just so turgid. I don't know how well you guys read Greek. I know Angela does.
I do.
But it's just like the most turgid, technical, I mean, technical Greek. It's just like every single word is like a technical term for Neoplatonism, and he just used like, you know, what's a word that he likes to use a lot, like unparticipated, amathectane. It's just like such a weird word. Like the unparticipated is unaffected by the causeless self-cause. You know, like, oh God, it's like reading ancient Heidegger or something. It's just a mess.
Amathectane. It sounds like something you get over the pharmacy counter.
Yeah, yeah. It's the disease of being unparticipated.
Yeah, I think that next time I will need a strap-on pharaoh beard to be part of, you know, the party now and blend in better.
We just have to take all of our beards off. I don't know. I have nightmares where that happens. Like it's like it's total castration dreams. But like I feel like things where like my beard falls off, or like if folks ever had the dream where your teeth come out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, that's an awful dream. What weird creatures we
it's
are.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same in other folk beliefs, but in Italy, there's the belief that when you dream that your teeth fall off, it means that there's somebody that is gonna die, and depending on where the tooth is, it will be, you know, if it is like front teeth, it will be somebody in your immediate family, or if it is more distant teeth, it could be even friends or part of the extended family.
Oh, that's
Do you
scary.
have that belief?
Yeah.
No?
There is something similar in Judaism where teeth falling out is an omen for something very bad and death, and you're not supposed to repeat such a dream if you have it. You're supposed to like keep it unmanifest in the real world. Don't let it get out there.
It's like the only dream, right? That you're not supposed to talk about. Like the other ones, you're encouraged to get them interpreted.
Right. And for some of these dreams as well, there's a tradition to fast for them, which is considered quite a serious fast. And so we have it's interesting that very dream in both traditions is seen as quite severe and quite a gnarly one.
It's interesting. It's cross cultural. Like, I mean, obviously we're all coming from very different. Like, I wonder if it occurs in like India or this. Because I'm reading a paper once where I talk about schizophrenic people and how the command voices in the Indian subcontinent are not like evil in the same way they are in Western Europe and America. And it's just interesting, like the manifestation of that stuff can take such different forms culturally. Like I wonder if that teeth, because I guess in the versions I have, my teeth never come out; they're just like loose. But I wonder if that's also like a cross cultural dream, and what would explain that. I'm pretty sure that Jung or someone would have something to say about it.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. We have a question, and thank you, Raymond, for the super chat. I says, following on the idea of pukaing, do you all think Heidegger can be credited with first philosophical use of nouns as verbs? No, absolutely not.
Yeah. He can be credited with using them in completely insane ways, though.
Yes. Yeah, I think that he brought it to the next level.
Right.
Next level.
That nothing, the nothing that nothings.
The design, yeah.
Yeah, das nicht it. Yeah, I can. Who was it that wrote the paper against him? Was it that makes fun of that? Was it? It's the it wasn't Gadamer. It was one of the logical positivists. Maybe Carnap. It was Carnap. He wrote a paper and it's like, this is completely idiotic. That people are spellbound this, because Carnap was in the audience when Heidegger gave that Vastius Metaphysics lecture, 29 or whatever, and Carnap just like, he was just sitting there with his blood boiling, listening to that. I must have been. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you guys know who was the first one to do that? Plato, maybe. But not in the same way as Heidegger did it. I think that most philosophers tend to use verbs. Well, what was the question? It was about
nouns as verbs.
Yeah, as
verbs. I mean, it has to be. I mean, Parmenides, like that's his whole shtick,
even
right?
Before, yeah.
I mean, that's his whole shtick is that the participial form of on indicates that is a thing, and that thing can be talked about and philosophically analyzed. And I mean, depending on who you listen to, that's why Western philosophy looks the way that it does, and why Chinese philosophy doesn't look that way, because Chinese philosophy can't, the grammar just doesn't work that way. And depending on who you ask Heidegger, that's where everything went off the rails, is we forgot how to talk about being.
Do you have a oneing in Plotinus, the Neoplatonists, like the sense that the noun of one turns into a verb? What's the Greek on that?
Pardon?
Be
The
tahen.
being, and toan.
Mhm.
Toan is Greek for to be.
Yeah, but I don't know if the ones in Plotinus. I think that it's beyond. I mean, I think in Plotinus the one's just beyond all. It's meta ontological. There are no predicates that are true of it, or there are no predicates that are true of it that aren't equivocal.
Yeah.
And Hank says that the Magus Lectures, and this would be a reference to the Patreon community, because I have obviously different tiers, and the Magus tier patrons get a monthly lecture. And this month there will be Dr. Jenny Butler. So it would be sort of a round table, and we will be discussing with her. So if you guys are interested in Irish and Celtic paganism and witchcraft, you might want to consider joining my Patreon at a Magus tier. So thank you, Hank, for reminding me of that. And we have another super chat. Thank you, Grant Hobson. What got you all into esotericism? I was into Greek mythology growing up, but I got interested in it after seeing the Midnight Gospel and listening to a lot of Sandra in 2020. Much love for all the work. So what got you guys into esotericism? In my case, I think it was, maybe some people know that already if you have been following my channel for any length of time. But yeah, I was interested in esotericism since I was a child. Because I don't really divulge much of my personal history and personal beliefs, but I can say that in my family and in my hometown, that there was a lot of folk witchcraft, and yeah, I've had some kind of exposure since I was a child, and I got interested in it just instinctively. But yeah, then growing up and going to high school, I think that my gateway was probably Plotinus for some reason. But yeah, I think that Plotinus was something that for me was the gateway drug, even though it may not seem as though it is very related, but there are some liaison points, and Neoplatonism has been influential in the interpretation of magic practices from for many centuries. It was very influential in the Renaissance, for instance. But what about you guys? What got you interested in? I know that you don't talk specifically. I think that Justin and I tend to talk more specifically about esotericism, and you guys more as a tangent. But you're more interested in philosophy and mysticism. Religion for Philip and mysticism for Sabi, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a good question. So, like you, I've always been interested in like mythology. I can remember just growing up, I've always had an interest in. I used to like watch documentaries and movies about ancient Egypt, and I was really fascinated about all that stuff. But I think a lot of it also, the way I was exposed to those kinds of ideas was through music, because as a teenager I would listen a lot to, well, like so many other people, I was exposed to Indian philosophy through the Beatles, for example. I would also listen to a lot of Tool in my teenage years, and they have a lot of esoteric and occult themes and lyrics and all this stuff. So I think it was like a gradual thing, a lot of music and a lot of interest since growing up that just led me in that direction over the years, I guess. And then I started studying religion and got into the mystical aspect of religion in particular, and those tend to be pretty connected also. You know, mysticism tends to be esoteric a lot of the time.
And what about you, Zabi?
I got exposed to, say, mysticism and esotericism, and we should try and use those words differently, but there is some overlap, as Philip is gesturing. Before I even knew that these categories existed, I grew up in a Hasidic community where we were taught Hasidic philosophy from a very young age, in our early teens. And for me, actually discovering the categories of mysticism, esotericism, occultism, whatnot, was quite a radical realization, because I realized that what I had been studying in my own tiny Hasidic community was actually part of this large global phenomenon, this story that goes back to people like Plotinus and Plato and through the Renaissance, the Middle Ages. And that was a really wild realization that I made when I was about 16. Just through a novel that I come across, which exposed me to some ideas from Christian and Islamic mysticism initially. And then I went through my own sort of phase of religious questioning, which led me into, modern Americanized forms of Eastern mysticism, and trying to make sense of that with what I had been raised with, my own mystical traditions. And I think it's just been a slow burn, evolving journey of my own exploration of the rightfully mystical traditions that I was raised in, and then trying to understand them in their broader historical and philosophical context. And it's gone through all kinds of iterations, and I've shared the journey sort of in greater length on podcasts and whatnot, but that's a short version of it, a journey which I'm still on today, and a journey which has led me to you wonderful people.
Justin, what about you? I think it was alchemy, wasn't it?
So alchemy was my first love. But I think it's same with the same thing being a kid. Like, I watched a lot of scary movies growing up, and those are almost always sort of occulty. And then just watching shows like Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World and In Search of with Leonard Nimoy, and these like shows that I think, for better or worse, do a good job of inculcating in you like a sense of wonder that the world's really weird, and there are weird things in the world, like the Bermuda Triangle or vampires or whatever, Bigfoot. And I don't know, I think that what happened was those shows put a sense of wonder in me about sort of the arcane dimensions of the world. And then as I got older, I got skeptical of any of that stuff being true. Like, I remember watching an analysis of the Bermuda Triangle, and it showed that Lloyd's of London doesn't charge any more insurance money for boats passing through the Bermuda Triangle than anywhere else. In fact, it's more expensive to insure boats going over Lake Michigan. And I was like, at that point, I was like, if insurance won't make any money off of it, it's not really real. And so I turned more skeptical, but the sense of wonder in that stuff never left me behind. And so eventually I wanted to do something with it, and I decided to make the terrible decision of becoming an academic. And so here I am. But yeah, so I think it's those kinds of shows, which it's funny because I go back and watch some of them now, and I'm like, man, young children should not be exposed to some of that completely crazy nonsense. Can lead you to all kinds of terrible beliefs about, I don't know, ancient Egyptian people or whatever, people who built the pyramids and things like that. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like watching things like, they used anti-gravity to build the pyramids. It's like the same kind of ads that run on our channels, by the way.
Yes.
Gaia TV ads.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you look at the kind of ads that YouTube chooses to run over our videos. Like,
yeah,
we are not sponsored by Gaia. We have to be clear about that.
Yeah, definitely not.
We are gonna all get demonetized now.
Guys, pull their funding. I do wish we had some control over that stuff, more control over it, at least veto power at some level of, like, being able to do that. But yeah, it's like the ancient alien stuff. It's just so toxic. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that really spawned the interest in me, and yeah, John Dee alchemy stuff, and that stuff never went away.
Hi, Marco. He says, please not Gaia.
Yeah, that stuff is so bad.
And thank you, Dave. another patron of mine. And I'm also glad to have met Joao. I can only find this comment of you now, but I know that you've been in the chat since the beginning. It was really nice meeting him. I don't know if you guys have ever met any of your patrons. I have met a few of my patrons, and it was really nice. Have you had an experience? Justin has, from the, I gather from the nodding.
Not me, I think. No, not that I can remember, at least.
You would remember that, I would imagine.
Maybe there's someone out there who's offended now, but no, I don't think so.
I've had the chance. Very, very sweet. Very sweet to meet people in real life. It's quite real, shall we say.
And Andrew, who is actually my first patron and also the moderator, so thank you for moderating the chat. He says you guys need to make offerings to the YouTube algorithm to get better ads.
Yeah.
That's a good point. We should try some techno magic or cyber magic.
So what actually determines what ads are on our videos? Because I know that I get a lot
think that YouTube, chooses. I think that actually it's the advertisers that decide what kind of videos they want to be on. And then depending on how YouTube categorizes your YouTube channel, they would be able to make an offer or something like that. That's my understanding anyway.
I don't know if we all wrote to Gaia and be like, please don't sponsor our channel anymore. I don't know if like, it's the, most, I think a lot of YouTubers are desperately trying to get sponsors. I wonder if we'd be the only ones to be like, please don't sponsor our stuff.
Yeah, I think that my only concern is that people that watch our channel may think that, we are somewhat sponsored by them or related to them, which is obviously not the case.
No, they actually reached out to me for a sponsorship, one of the shows on Gaia, and I was like, absolutely not. They got angry. The person seemed like, I don't know. Like the new agey stuff, it always strikes me as like just a hair's breadth away from some real malevolent, I don't know, like manifesting things into reality and stuff like that. Stuff worries me. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Once you manifest, not bothering me.
What's the weirdest sponsorship that you've been offered? And I'm guessing rejected, since it was the weirdest. I have a good one, but I want to hear yours first.
I can't think of any weird. Like the weirdest one I can think of is that I was offered to do a sponsorship with a company that sold glasses. And the argument was that I wear glasses, and so
that's why I don't get the glasses.
Tenuous relationship.
Pardon?
Yeah. I have a lot of I have a bunch of gaming apps that reach out, and I shared one on Twitter this week. It was supposedly from Netflix, but the grammar of the email was so bad. I'm like, okay, this is certainly not Netflix. I thought that was funny.
So you guys get glasses and Gaia, and I get the dildos apparently.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's great.
I think it is because I have like 3 videos on kink and BDSM on my YouTube channel, and so I got approached by I think it was like 3 different sponsorship. One was, I think it was a sex doll, and they wanted me to do an unboxing, and it's like, well, I don't know what I would do with a sex doll during the unboxing, but anyway. And then another one was sex toys, and the other 2 were sex toys. And it's really funny because I was telling some friends of mine who are also musicians, and they said, well, you have the Erosda, my music band, you could have accepted the sponsorship, and the drummer would have just played with dildos, and it's like, here it is. Sponsorship.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so I missed an opportunity in hindsight, but
I wonder how much they would.
there's like an entire spin-off possible here of
Yeah,
entirely different direction these channels can go.
now you're like drifting into OnlyFans territory. Like,
I get messages about that as well, asking me to open an OnlyFans. But do you guys get those? Do you guys get those?
Yeah, all the time, Angela. Of course we do. There's a really funny as a YouTube channel I like called Bernadette Banner. She's a historian of like clothing, and she started a Victorian OnlyFans, which is just like pictures of her ankles, which is hilarious. Be a good April Fool's prank to do a esotericism OnlyFans. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I think that Justin, I think you should open an OnlyFans as the April Fools. Or we should do it all together.
All together, yeah.
If I do it, people will think that it's
you would have to pay that. That's the whole point.
Yeah, after they pay, they will find like pictures of us with books and stuff.
You can do like a John D. and Edward Kelly OnlyFans. Swap their wives.
We could do a book porn OnlyFans, just our books, in nice lighting and in nature settings.
With like blurry naked people in the background.
Perfectly ordered books.
Perfectly ordered.
People who do that, like, makes me crazy when people organize their books like according to like color and things like that. I've been to people's houses like that, and it irks me for some reason.
Because you're an Aquarian.
I do order them chronologically.
So that makes sense. Or like I have my philosophy books organized by like time period. So like So but like I've been to places where like all the yellow and red books are all like it makes sense if you have like Loeb classics or something where they're all the same. But yeah, I went to this person's house and there was like all the red books were in one place and all the yellow books were in one place. And I was like, you don't really read. It irked me.
I have a friend who does that, which I think you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to call her out in public, but yes, she does that.
What does she do?
She orders the books by color, and I also very much disagree. There's no logic there.
It's so weird to have.
I order my books by non-ordering them, so I just have them spread around everywhere, just like everything else, because I'm very untidy and very messy as a person. So yeah, what you see is the very small space that I have tidied out, but otherwise it's an explosion of Angela stuff.
That's the way it should be. It's a sign that you're working. I don't know. If I ever went into a person's office and it was like super tidy, I'd be like, "What? No work gets done in here."
Yeah.
That the mess is indicative of the work. But
Philip's checking to see if his place is messy enough.
Pretty messy in here, so that's good.
Yeah, but Philip's background always looks like the modern equivalent of like a Baroque painting. It's like random books and musical instruments and stuff, with like the chiaroscuro lighting and stuff. Like. Philip lives in like a Baroque painting somehow.
Yep.
There you go. It's like lutes and stuff. Like it actually is like medieval instruments.
But how do you guys think that our work may change academia if or not really academia per se, because I don't want to be that grandiose in my assumptions or hypotheses, but even the public perception of academic knowledge, do you think that we may be affecting it somehow, and how, if so?
I hope so. At the very least, I think and hope that we can affect the way that this kind of information is conveyed, because it is often, the ivory tower thing of the only people that read academic articles are other academics, and so the information doesn't get out there. And I think, I was going to say us, but I don't know if I can call myself an academic at the moment, but academics in general, I think, can get much better at getting the information out there. And hopefully what we're doing can kind of show the way a little bit, at least one way to do it.
Yeah, I cannot really talk much about it at this moment because everything is kind of confidential at the moment. But I will be part of a team of a new academic association for the study of aestheticism that has as one of its aims to reach out also to the community of practitioners. So I really, really like this project, and I look forward to revealing more about it because it's part of a big research project that will be happening in the next 7 years. So yeah, as soon as it goes public, I will tell you guys everything about it. But it's really exciting, especially for the aspect of trying to reach out to the public and divulge academic scholarship in an easy to understand way to even to the community of practitioners and create a bridge and create a communication. So I really like that.
That's great.
That's super cool. Angela, you've presented, right, at academic conferences about your public scholarship work on YouTube
Yes.
and
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah,
So-
I also gave a lecture at Harvard University, and I will give another one next year. And they asked me to give lectures specifically about that, how to, keep to use an academic methodology on social media. Because they notice my use of references, the fact that I use the peer-reviewed scholarship and things like that, and how to integrate that with a format, with the social media format. And also at the last conference of the British Association for the Study of Religion, because the theme of the conference was religion and public engagement, and so I decided, okay, I'm gonna give a paper on being a public scholar on YouTube and disseminating academic scholarship. So yes, I have given lectures, and conference papers on that, and I think they were well received by the public. I think that a lot of academics actually would really like to have a wider outreach. I also got some backlash from other academics because of parts of the way, aspects of how I convey what I do, the content that I do. But I think that mostly, at least the ones that I've spoken to, they really appreciate my work. So that is nice.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'd be curious. That's very cool. It's really cool to see those bridges being built and to see the interest sort of from both sides. I'd be curious to hear Justin's thoughts as well, because Justin is a career academic in some sense, and I'm not. I'm a sort of outsider academically doing independent scholarship, and I'm kind of crossing over with the religious world as well. So a lot of my viewership are people coming from the religious community being exposed to, for the first time, to academic ideas. And I think that there's definitely a necessity to bring those academic ideas, sort of to reveal those secrets to the public, because they don't make their way to the public by natural means. And I think that the job of being a communicator is incredibly important. The same way that in science you have science researchers and science communicators, and those aren't mutually exclusive, and that work is equally important. I think that the role of communicating is important. And as you're mentioning, the academics themselves, they want to be engaging with public scholarship, and they need to be to some extent. And I think that the role of academics, seeing the capacity to share or to be involved in sharing or to be important as guests, I think we're only going to see that grow. I think we're at the very beginning of that intersection.
Yeah, I think that academics generally would want to have a wider outreach. The thing is that when you are in academia, you tend to always be within certain circles, and you're used to doing things in a very specific way. And I don't think that there is really an awareness that those ways are not that, I wouldn't say appealing to the public, but they are not really open to the public. Because, for instance, there are academics that will publish their papers on academia.edu, but a lot of people don't even know what that is. Yeah. I think that in a lot of cases, there is kind of an assumption that academics are making their scholarship available for those who search for it. The problem is that you need to have the knowledge and, in a way, the training to, first of all, gather the difference between a source that is academic and another one that isn't. And second, to search through the the search engines that will allow you to access those kind of, or the databases that will allow you to access those kind of papers and articles and books. And I don't think that the public, the lay person is trained to do that. So yeah, in that way, YouTube is helpful because you don't have to go for a specific database to find a paper, but you just search for the, what interests you, and you may find one of our videos, and that can be much easier to find as a resource.
I think the whole social media thing is a really great middle ground that has sort of emerged in the last few years, because before, I could be wrong, I guess, but it's sort of a balance in between the two extremes. Because if you're working in the bigger sort of, at least previously, TV, for example, then you're controlled in what content you can make based on, whatever a studio might want, or what's going to get the viewers, right? Whereas on the other side, you have the ivory tower academic bubble, right? That just that doesn't get out to the public. With things like YouTube and similar platforms, we have the opportunity to, for example, take the time to cover a topic properly using all the research and all this. But it's also a platform where that does reach a large audience. So I think that's a really great opportunity it hasn't been around for that long. I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to think that, I mean, whether academics like it or not, or whether anyone likes it or not, YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet. And we're living in an age, I mean, this Twitter stuff is a good example of just like really serious disinformation and misinformation, or just bad information. And of one of the places where it's most pernicious is in religious studies. I mean, it's amazing how so much of information about religion stuff in general is just either bad or confessional or slanted in certain kinds of ways. And so, I would say that not only are we lucky that we have the opportunity to do what we do, but other academics are going to have to eventually come around to the reality that if they want to live in a functioning civil society, they have to put content on things like YouTube, because if they don't, it'll get filled with crazy people. I mean, if you look at the distance between, I don't know, like my content and someone who's similar and makes similar kind of content, someone like, I don't know, Robert Seffer, who's just a purveyor of complete nonsense and racist conspiracy theories and stuff. It's the middle ground is very thin. And so, yeah, I think that we are going to change it, the tenor of online education, because people desperately want good information. And that's why I really appreciate your methodology, Angela. It's that you cite your sources and it's clear where you're getting the stuff from. So yeah, I think it's going to have to be the case that we're going to have to eventually, the tenor will have to change, because people want the information. And if people aren't making good information on YouTube, it'll just be cluttered with all kinds of bad stuff. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think that and in some cases, I think that at first I was a bit concerned that it could I don't know, somewhat undermine me as a scholar, in the eyes of other academics, because I don't know, because of being on YouTube and because of my style and things like that. But then I thought that, I just really wanted to share this kind of content, and I wanted to do it by being myself, put it very, very simply. So but yeah, I agree. I think that it's kind of nearsighted, and to not see that YouTube is the second most used search engine, as you said. I'm guessing the first one is Google.
and it's funny, because for people below the age of 25, it's the first largest search engine. Really? So for instance, my students, I was actually talking to my students about this, and they're like, yeah, if I want to know something about Plato's Republic, I don't read Wikipedia. I'd go to YouTube. And I was like, yeah, this is the lesson that that I think academics really mistake, is that the common public, most people are not going to JSTOR to look to peer-reviewed articles that are hard to read and hard to find, even if you can get them. they're not going to get information from there because there are so many objective barriers in the way. They're going to go to YouTube and they're going to type in Plotinus, and it's just a roll of the dice if that information is going to be high quality or not. And I don't know. I feel like for me, it's a sort of a sacred duty at some level to provide the best information I can, because between all of us, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are watching this content, and I don't want it to be on my shoulders that I'm pumping out bad stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a privilege and a duty, and I take both as seriously as I can.
Yeah, I think that at the same time, I also don't want to make it seem as though I think, and probably you think, that YouTube is the beginning and the end of the education process. Obviously, I'm hoping that my content, will work as an appetizer for people, and then people will get curious and interested, and then they will go and read perhaps the papers on JSTOR, maybe not on JSTOR if they don't have an academic affiliation of some sort, but on academia.edu. And if you ask nicely, lots of academics will give you their papers for free, because we don't get paid anything for our peer-reviewed publications. So we are generally very happy to share. I was asked recently, for instance, to send by a few colleagues a recent chapter that I published in an edited book, and I never had any problems with that. And I know many academics that don't have problems with that. So I encourage people to also go on and read the actual research and get familiar with it. So I think that when you have a background knowledge through one of our videos, it is even easier than to approach an academic paper or an academic article. Whereas if you go directly to the article without any prior knowledge, it might be much more difficult. So I'm hoping that my work is on YouTube is an appetizer, and then people will go and read the actual research. And then if it is behind the paywall, I think that there are ways that you can get through that. So
usually ways, yes.
I think
I cannot say out loud.
Yeah, one of the best ones got shut down this week, sadly.
Yeah.
Pardon?
One of the best ways of getting access to books, not so legally, got shut down this week, sadly. I don't know. It's
really.
Yeah. Books like this, like BOK, one of the big places to get pirated books, got shut down. You have to go find Brill books in real life now.
I think Z Library also went down this week.
Yeah, Z Library, yeah.
I think
we
in a way
reveal the secret. We do not recommend you use that. I didn't know it was shut down, by the way. Anyway,
I'm a bit recent? I'm a bit more partisan to sharing these resources to people, because me being an outsider would never have access to any academia without things like Sai Hub and LibGen. And I had the founder of Sai Hub over on the channel for the interview to talk about her work, and I think that there's so much corruption in the publishing industry that these measures are really important. But I think to the earlier point, I think that trying to approach any subject in academia can often be so overwhelming that having a person that can sort of represent like a guide into the field, like some sort of way sign. It's like, oh, I know that if I watch a video of Angela's or of Philip's or Justin's, I know that they will have done a lot of the reading. And then when they tell me, I know the research doesn't end there, it merely begins, and they tell me, oh, these are the best reading recommendations. This is who's being cited. I think there's a certain trust there in that relationship that allows people to then continue the journey on their own. And I think that role as a guide into academia is also a very important one.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the landscape, I mean, we're still pumping out more PhDs than there are jobs for. And I think that the downside of that is obvious, but I think one of the upshots is that is an industrial educational reserve army that could be pumping that content to YouTube, and I think in many ways making a pretty good living doing it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I wish that there were equivalent channels to ours that were about like upper level math. Like one of the things that I would love, to do is like go and relearn, I don't know, like linear algebra or something, and just having like, an academic who's able to teach things like upper level maths accessibly would be, I'd love something
I'm
like that.
surprised that there isn't a channel on that. I never searched for it, but I know that in other areas of science, physics, and etc., there are YouTube channels that do that.
Yep. There's some, but it's it's the sweet spot of, how arcane can you get, how far can you niche down and still, have a successful channel. I think we're all evidence that you can niche down pretty far.
Turns out you can.
Yeah, it turns out you can.
Yes.
But yeah, just like, having I don't know, like there's no really great YouTube channel like Logic, which really blows my mind.
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm kidding, but we
What?
definitely
No, I
need a fun YouTube channel on Logics.
Yeah.
People complain about how YouTube is so saturated and there's no way to break into the market and everything's done already. And it's really not the case. Like I think there's, like you're saying, Justin, there's so many academics that have really, really valuable knowledge, that there's a ready and waiting audience. And I think some people that are like driving themselves crazy trying to find, teaching positions should consider going onto social media and beginning to share. I think it's totally true, and I think there are so many fields within the humanities and outside that just aren't being tapped at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how overly saturated in some ways like esotericism stuff is in religious studies. Like if you were to look at religious studies departments in the world, it looks nothing like the YouTube landscape of religious studies. Like if you think about like the way that it skews, you would think that like there was an esotericism specialist in every department, when in fact there's none hardly. So it's just funny that it skews in the way that it does, at least in terms of religious studies. Like I don't know, it's amazing that there aren't other kinds of religious studies scholars on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, there is obviously Andrew, but
And
yeah,
even he does, his specialty is like magic and stuff and late antiquity.
yeah,
So
that's
it's funny
true.
how it skews in that direction.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just like a super, I don't know, it's a hilariously strange,
I think because we are the odd ones, and so as a consequence, we had to sort of gather on YouTube because. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why that is the case that the religious studies YouTube community tends to skew more towards magic and esotericism. Probably because of that. Probably because it is kind of an outsider topic even within religious studies, and so we needed to find different avenues to reach out to the public.
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat. These minds are so fine. Congrats, Dr. P. Thank you. I have a few of my supporters and patrons that call me Dr. P, which is fine, which is funny. So yeah, I think that it's important to be on YouTube and deliver this kind of knowledge and have an exchange with the community as well. And I think it's also the case that with esotericism, paganism, and new religious movements, they seem to be, especially those that involve some kind of magic, they seem to be more interested in what academics have to say and even a bit more permeable to research outputs and even to amend their practices and belief system according to that. And that I think is different from other religions. So there's an interesting book that I've cited many times by Coco von Stuckert on scientification of religion, and he has a few chapters on that. And he's not the only academic who's talked about it. And I totally agree with the fact that there are specifically, certain magic practicing traditions from the mid 20th century onwards that tend to be particularly interested in the outputs from academic scholarship. So I think that that's also a reason why perhaps our work and in the academic study of historicism on YouTube can appeal more to the community of practitioners, because there is this interest to begin with, and YouTube makes it more accessible.
Yeah, that's sort of it's true, and it's intimidating. I don't know. I worry about that. You know, to what degree, you know, you're having an impact on people's spiritual life.
Oh well, I'm terrified now. I'm speaking of Brill, I'm working on delivering my first draft that I will, you know, send in a week or in a week or two. But anxiety rising. But other than that, but yeah, for instance, since my research is in anthropology of religion, that's my PhD turned into a book, by the way. I was rereading my chapters and I kept thinking, when this book comes out, you know, what will these people think? Will they get mad at me? Will they change? You know, will people change the way they practice depending on how on my data analysis and my conclusions? So I do have these kind of thoughts, and I think that especially in anthropology, that tends to be a worry that a lot of scholars have, because you are working with people, you get data from people, and then you are publishing something publicly that could affect their lives in one way or another. In some cases, it could affect their livelihoods. So I tend to anonymize my informants, but there are cases where either they cannot be anonymized or they do not want to be anonymized. And in those cases, I'm personally a bit worried about when my book comes out in that regard. In a way, I'm shielded by the language barrier because I'm publishing it at the moment in English and my informants are Italians. So, but at the same time, it kind of worries me, not because I've done anything unethical or anything of the sort, but I think the practitioners tend to have their own perspective on things, and you as a scholar who are analyzing a practice, a tradition in my case, you know, in the wider sense throughout Italy, you will have a different perspective and a different conclusion from what they have. So for instance, I have a case study on an Italian shaman who claims to be the last Italian shaman of a hereditary tradition. And basically my part of my thesis is that there is you know, an entire tradition of Italian shamanism that is, you know, part of the vernacular healing tradition in Italy. So obviously she might be disappointed about that, but it's not, you know, it's not the case that I've done anything unethical. It is just that the ethic perspective, which means the perspective of the scholar, is always going to be different or differ to some degree from the emic perspective, which is the perspective of the practitioner. So when you're an anthropologist, you always have to face that kind of things, like how is my work going to affect people? And that is a bit scary. And with us on YouTube, we also have that. Even when we don't do active anthropology, it is still an anthropological endeavor in a way.
Yeah, I had a moment like that in my last video, which was on the Shams al-Ma'arif, well, 2 videos ago, I guess, which, you know, I make a point in that video of connecting that book to Sufism, that it's a part of the Sufi tradition in some way, an expression of the esoteric kind of occult side of Sufism. And at the same time, at least in some parts of the world, you know, Sufis are oppressed and are seen as heretics and all these kinds of things. And, you know, the thought crossed my mind is like, am I adding fuel to the fire to these people who want to make you know, the Sufis to be magicians and heretics and dangerous and so on, by connecting it to Ahmed al-Buni and this book, which is certainly an occult book in many ways. So there are situations like that, definitely, where the ethical side of it becomes a consideration.
And how do you resolve that conflict?
In this case, I didn't really think about it until after I had already finished the video, but I guess I always just try to keep that kind of distance when in the video when I'm talking about it, and that. So, for example, right now I'm writing another video about Neoplatonism in Islam, in Islamic thought, and that's also another factor. There is that a lot of people, say from the Salafi and Wahhabi side of things, will accuse many of these traditional Islamic scholars of adapting, just being Greek philosophers and trying to force that into Islam. And so while writing that episode, I also tried to make it clear that, for these scholars, they're not taking, or at least from their perspective, they're not taking Greek philosophy and trying to fit it into Islam. Rather, they're seeing similarities between the two traditions and simply saying, well, this is saying the same thing, and so we can use this language to complement what the Quran is saying, for example, to keep that what you refer to as the emic perspective, right? To also make sure to have the discussion be as broad as possible, and to present the different perspectives, I guess, in this case, was important to me. I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, I think it does. And what about you, Justin? How do you feel about practitioners, being affected by your content?
I mean, it not being a practitioner myself, it's sort of strange. Like, this is sometimes people gotten angry at me about this, that I'm not a practitioner. Like, somehow that them learning about the material from me, despite the fact that I don't believe it, is somehow an indictment of its worthiness to be believed in. That's a strange sentence, but I hope that it came out right. But there's a strange sort of idea that because I don't believe in, I don't know, whatever magic stuff, that somehow it's not worthy of belief, which is not something I believe. But yeah, so that's one aspect of it. I think the other side of it is I don't have to pretend. I don't pretend to give anyone any answers about the veridicality of any of this material, and so in that way, I have some distance, philosophical distance, from how it's landing. Although I do feel it is weird sometimes where I get emails of people asking me for like magical spells and stuff to, I don't know, get their girlfriend back or something like that. I'm like, I don't have any such spell, and if I did, I wouldn't give it to anyone. So I guess there's that. It's the other side of it. I don't know. I'd also just think I'm not making that much of an impact, probably, at least in my faith community. I don't know, Zevi, if you have the same experience that I do, but I feel like the Jewish community is like the least interested in this stuff getting. They're the most resistant to anyone talking about it in public in some ways. I get like some of the harshest feedback from like Orthodox Jewish people being like, how dare you talk about the Zohar or whatever. I don't know. It's bizarre. It's such a strange thing. So I don't know. I don't know that I'm having much of an impact in that way, but in the sense that I kind of have a methodological agnosticism. People are going to do with it what they will, and that's the long and the short of it. If someone wants to go out there and practice Enochian magic, that's their business. I don't know that I'm making it in some ways. I think I'm making it both easier because I'm making it the material more accessible, but also I'm really skeptical about all this material, and so at the same time I'm also trying to encourage critical thinking as well. I'm not sure if that's acting as an increase of people being interested in trying to practice this stuff, or pumping the brakes on it, but maybe both. I don't know. I mean, I got an email the other day about the Abramelin. Someone reached out to me and said, how dare you talk about the dancing monkeys at the end of the Abramelin like you're making fun of my spirituality? And I'm like, I didn't write the book, man. Like I can't help it that this book has dancing monkeys at the end. I just like spirit, spirit. You can summon spirit monkeys and stuff. And I'm like, it's not my fault. You can't kill the messenger. I guess you can. There's a long history of that. Don't do it. But it's that kind of stuff where people like think. I don't know, the John D stuff. When I point out inconsistencies in the John D material, it's as if I'm like, it's an indictment of people who practice Enochian magic. And I'm like, look, man, if it's working for you, it's working for you. That's your business. Like, have fun. Go talk to angels. I don't know. Sounds fun. But I don't know. Hopefully, again, it's some combination of it's enabling people to think on their own, but also providing people with a critical attitude toward this material, because I feel like a lot of the attitudes online are very credulous, and I feel like credulity in general is.
I don't know, because I think then in the community of magic practitioners, I think there is a lot of criticism of that kind of the credulous ones. So I think that even within the community of practitioners, even online on YouTube or on TikTok, I think that the ones that tend to get more attention tend to endorse, or at least try to endorse, a more critical, even skeptical sometimes approach to magic and magic practices. I think that is, yeah. But if you look at the people that practice those things in the real world, I think that there is a lot of that, of what you're saying. Like when you go to events, for instance, esoteric events, or I think that you tend to find that kind of attitude. But online, at least, maybe it's my echo chamber, but my impression is that people that tend to endorse a more critical approach tend to get more traction within the community and be more respected, even when they are practitioners and they do believe in the reality and effectiveness of magic practices. But I think that there is a lot of value given to that kind of skepticism, an open-minded skepticism, where you don't just believe in anything, but at the same time you keep an open mind. If you do a magic working and the thing that you ask for happens, in that case, even if you can be skeptical in terms of trying to find evidence of the effectiveness of that, or having a critical approach towards it. For some people also practice atheistic witchcraft, for instance, and they are particularly skeptical about their own practice and see that more in psychological terms. So I think that there is a variety of approaches to the practice. And I think that's also why, for instance, our channels are appealing, because of that critical mindset, and even skeptical.
Yeah, definitely. In my case also, since I talk so much about the Islamic world and Islam, a lot of my audience are from that region. And I do find that most of the comments are very appreciative and really are very thankful for the information and the content. But there is also kind of an uneasiness from a lot of people from that region, and for good reason, because of the history of Orientalism and colonialism and all that stuff. But I do find that is still kind of a hurdle I have to get over. I have to get people to trust me first, at least some people, because they have this idea that, here comes this white Western guy who's going to talk about Islam. Like, what does he know? Which is it's good to be, it's good to be careful and skeptical at first, but hopefully, eventually from the content they will realize that I'm not one of those people.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm getting a lot of comments about, this beard club. Well, thank you for saying it. Makes me hopeful about our future. I like that you use our, I called it a symposium for a reason. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of comments about the fact that we are a beard club, and I feel very excluded. And there were also comments of people saying that now they want to grow a beard, and so it's like, yeah, I'm sure I was the one who convinced you of that.
Yeah, it is interesting the amount of bearded people who do religious studies on the internet. Like Andrew is beardo. Yeah, that's yeah, I guess, like I said, it's just like so hilarious that it has any social value, considering it's just laziness, or it can be just laziness.
Maybe
well, in my case, it would entail a lot of effort.
You would say it would take, yeah.
So.
Yeah, but all three of you also have like great heads of hair, so good for you. Like,
yeah.
No, so funny. Yeah. The beard stuff.
In some way, Justin and Angela, you guys have inverted hair patterns.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
I just want to add a comment to what we were saying earlier about sort of the quandary of sharing the material we are with people that are listening from religious communities, and we're all dealing with overlapping but different communities, so it makes our work interesting and reflection an interesting one. I was thinking similarly to Philip, we're doing an upcoming, I don't know if this is public yet, but an upcoming collaboration on Neoplatonism. And I have some real like religious or like moral quandary writing that, and I think I'm gonna have to put in like a heavy disclaimer and afterword about that, because I know that my own like life trajectory was changed because of research that I encountered about my own tradition, and it's hard always to say whether that change was a positive or negative one, and like, do I want to be someone who's bringing that change to others? And obviously, I believe that what I'm thinking, what I'm reading, is obviously like the best available scholarship on the issue, and I feel persuaded by the cases that are being made. And I wouldn't present something if it was just nonsense. And if I think it is nonsense, I say so. But still, I think like maybe sometimes the bliss of not knowing is a better one. And who am I to burst that bubble? And I hear people saying like, oh, if someone's faith is going to be changed because of one article or one YouTube video, then their faith isn't very real. And I don't buy into that. I think that one's faith can be moved pretty by anything that's presented with earnestness and seriousness, and if there's some serious facts that are challenging. And I think that there is some responsibility in doing that. And I'm not, the truth is, I'm not entirely sure and settled on that question. But I think that like what does give me some solace is, firstly, we're not demagogues. We're not forcing anyone to listen to our opinions. We're putting it out there, and if someone wants to watch, they're welcome to. And if it's someone who's underage, they should have their own parental permission on what they're watching online, and they could be watching much worse things online, that's for sure. And then we try to present what we find to be the best evidence, and it's peer reviewed, and it's critical, and it's thoughtful, and while trying to be open-minded. And if that's going to, if what we find to be factual is gonna change some directions, then maybe that's moving them in a direction of something which is more factual. Maybe that's not a bad thing. But I think I'm sitting in that question at the moment, and it's a living question for me.
I like how the most dangerous thing we could peddle on our channels is Neoplatonism. It's like, hey kids, you want some emanations? Like, of all of the of all the stuff that we could be peddling, that's the our real our worry is that people might pick up some dangerous Neoplatonism.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm joking at some level, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting question, Zevi. Like, to what degree are we responsible for people? I mean, I think anyone who's coming from a religious community, no one's going to be swayed by a YouTube video. I can't imagine that's not part of a larger process that someone's going through. I also think about the interaction of this stuff and mental health stuff. I mean, that there's a pretty significant overlap that I've noticed between people who are interested in occultism and people who also suffer from mental health stuff. And to what degree is that also contributing to like, I've had to put like a basically a disclaimer on my website being like, I can't offer you like psychological counseling, because I get emails like weekly with people having intrusive thoughts and stuff like that. But yeah, it's it is an interesting question to what degree we are responsible for that. But I do like the idea that we're peddling Neoplatonism. It's dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
And in terms of mental health issues and Stoicism and interest in Stoicism, I'm not really sure about that, because I mean, in terms of the prevalence of mental health issues, because my impression is that lately there is a prevalence of mental health issues among every community, maybe also because there is more awareness of those. For instance, I see a big difference between the UK and Italy in terms of the awareness towards mental health issues. And so it would seem as though in Italy there are fewer, but I'm not sure if that is true or whether they are just unacknowledged. But
I'd be curious to see if like I don't know, the Beowulf channel gets like emails from the same kind of emails. I don't know. And I think Andrew said that, it's really just those people who get the strangest emails. And I was like, yeah, but if you get the strangest emails, imagine the kind of stuff that Angela and I get. But yeah, I wonder if, I don't know, I mean, I guess probably Jackson Crawford has to deal with racist people a lot. I imagine that's the fringy, scary stuff in his world. But I wonder other kinds of, if more normie channels that deal with, I don't know, English grammar, linguistics, I wonder if they get what their emails look like.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's time to wrap up the live stream. Otherwise, I will keep you guys here the whole day. But thank you so much for being here and celebrate with me and the audience, the people in the chat at the 50K mark. And yeah, if you guys are not familiar with this Bearded People's channel, go check them out.
We go by Beardos.
The Beardos. Plus Angela.
Angela and the Beardos, yeah.
Yeah, it's like goth girl and Beardos.
Yes, sounds like the name of a band.
Yeah,
it
could be
a band. So yeah, thank you guys for coming over and celebrate with me. And as for you watching the channel, whether you're watching it live or afterwards, if you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so that you will always be notified when I upload a new video. And please, if you want me to keep going with this project, I would really appreciate any kind of support that you could give, whether it be joining my Patreon or sending PayPal donations, super thanks, super chats, and or becoming a channel member. There are different ways of supporting, or otherwise just sharing my videos around also really helps. And let me know what you think in the comment. And as always, stay tuned for all the academic fun. Bye for now.